On the side up.
When I miss it.
Check it out. Food. Ezra. Iphi. Anya ngisaphuma. Sho kanje.
I hope we're not going to be on that corner. Yeah.
Sekho. Colleagues, good morning. We're going to start in the next minute and a half. So if you can just be a little bit patient. There you go. Yeah, I can move that chair. Yeah. Brawin,
Can I pass that?
is this on? I've been trying to switch it on. Is it on?
No, this one's on. They're fine.
I'm saying this.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, okay. It's what? Okay, once again, good morning. Let's get the show on the road. Good morning to the Fourth Estate. And just to take it from the top, we'll introduce the panel. My name is Colin Msibi. I'm in charge. So in terms of the panel, we have the Minister of Transport, who doesn't need any introduction, joined by on the right, is the Group CEO of Transnet, Ms. Michelle Phillips. And then on the far right, we have the Group COO of Transnet, Mr. Soli Letswalo. And then on the minister's left, we have our DDG of Rail in the Department of Transport, who's also joining us. So we'll take the minister's statement, and thereafter, of course, the questions. But we'll also, at the end, have the opportunity for the one-on-ones. We don't have much time for that, but we will allow the broadcasters and some journalists to speak to the minister. Minister, can you speak to the nation?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Msibi, and good morning to everybody. Allow me to acknowledge Ms. Michelle Phillips, Mr. Collins, that was a bad boo-boo, Mr. Soli Letswalo, and of course our DDG for Rail in the Department of Transport, Mr. Nwako Makayepa. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited to stand here today before you to announce that Transnet, through its operating division, Transnet Rail Infrastructure Manager, or what we call TRIM, has completed the adjudication process to select new train operating companies. This is a significant step in our rail reform journey and makes open access to freight rail a reality in our country. It will contribute to a more efficient, reliable, and sustainable rail system that can promote inclusive growth and, of course, ensure job retention and future job creation. In March 2022, Cabinet approved the National Rail Policy, which lays the basis for third-party participation in the Transnet network while the infrastructure remains state-owned. The rail policy advances structural reforms that enable private sector investment, optimal utilization of the rail network, and effective economic regulation that facilitates equitable access to the network and ensures that it is properly managed. The benefits of third-party access, among other things, will include improving utilization of the network and thus increasing rail efficiency, reducing network unit costs by involving more operators, increasing revenue to contribute to the investment in the maintenance and modernization of the network, and reducing the external costs of freight logistics and improving the competitiveness of rail as a more environmentally friendly mode of transport. The roadmap for the freight logistics system in our country was approved by Cabinet on the 8th of December 2023. This document gave the interim rail economic regulatory capacity the mandate to manage consultation on Transnet's draft network statement. The network statement serves as a foundational document that outlines the terms and conditions under which operators can access the rail network, thereby giving to third-party access and enabling private sector participation. The first network statement and tariff determination, as you will remember, was published on the 20th of December 2024. The application process for slots commenced promptly after the network statement was gazetted in December, and applications opened at that time and closed on the 27th of February 2025. The evaluation process, according to Transnet, has been rigorous and was conducted in full compliance with the standards of fairness and transparency. Now it is my pleasure to share with you the results of the evaluation process. Of the 25 operating companies that applied, 11 have met the necessary requirements and will proceed to the next stage of negotiations and contracting. The initial allocations on a total of 41 routes and 6 corridors are as follows. The North Corridor, there will be 6 new entrants on 15 routes for the transportation of coal and chrome. On the Iron Ore Corridor, there will be 1 new entrant and 1 route for the transportation of iron ore. On the Cape Corridor, there will be 2 new entrants and 2 routes for the transportation of manganese. On the Northeast Corridor, there will be 6 new entrants, 16 routes for the transportation of coal, chrome, magnetite, fuel, and containers. And on the Central Corridor, there will be 1 new entrant and 2 routes for the transportation of coal and containers, including manganese. On the Container Corridor, which is the Durban route, there will be 4 new entrants, 5 routes for the transportation of containers, coal, and sugar. The Transnet Rail Infrastructure Manager estimates that the new train operating companies will carry an additional 20 million tons of freight per annum from the 26-27 financial year. This will supplement Transnet Freight Rail's forecasted volumes and contribute to government's target of increasing freight moved by rail to 250 million tons by 2029. The rail policy encourages rolling stock investment by the operating companies, and the establishment of the rolling stock leasing companies by both state-owned and private entities. This could be a key intervention for revitalizing rolling stock, and our estimates are that it could unlock as much as 100 billion rand in new investment. New entrants who have met the requirements will receive conditional award letters outlining award conditions, including the need to complete the Railway Safety Regulator's permit applications, rolling stock readiness, securing port offloading capacity, and other operational processes. Durations of the allocations range from 1 to 10 years, and operating companies can commence with operations once the relevant conditions have been addressed. Next week, TRIM will open applications for parties who wish to submit ad hoc applications for additional or new route allocations in the current 25-26 timetable period based on Volume 3 of the network statement. And this information will be available on the Transnet website. In due course, the Department of Transport will announce the date of publication of Volume 4 of the Network Statement and when applications will open to apply for available slots for the 26-27 financial year. We will also be incrementally enhancing our regulatory framework to ensure that the slot allocation process is guided by certainty and responsiveness to our rail reform program. Ladies and gentlemen, today's announcement is not just about the allocation of rail slots. It is a step towards a future where our railways drive economic growth and, of course, create many, many thousands of jobs. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of those who have contributed to the success of this process. You would understand that to be able to move from December last year to the actual allocation of slots in August this year has been a massive undertaking. And I think that it is appropriate that I need to thank Ms. Phillips and the whole team at Transnet for the incredible work that they have done. And of course, my job would not be complete if I didn't thank the DDG Rail, who has to take phone calls from me every 2 days. Where are we on this process and that process? So I think that we have succeeded in laying the groundwork towards an efficient rail system that addresses the needs of today while being future-orientated and starting to address the needs of tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister. And there you have it, colleagues. We'll take questions. And I understand there are others that are online, so we'll have Batabila, I think, who's assisting us there. But let's start in the room. Let's just take first set of questions, 3 questions, by show of hands, colleagues. Okay, there's already 4. We'll start with you in the front, and then SABC and EMC at the back, and then we'll come this side. Go ahead, sir. Please introduce yourself and the news service you represent.
Previous concessions with Transnet has led to, has seen the losing bidders take court action against Transnet. What's been done to ensure that that gets minimized? And second of all, can you just talk about what the commercial arrangements would be? What's Transnet getting? What will the concessionaires get, and what will Transnet invest?
Okay. Thank you. SABC.
Here from the SABC. Mine is also in line with what Larry has asked here. Just basically a breakdown of what would have disqualified some of those that did not make their cut. What are some of the issues that you picked up in the selection process that would say to you that this is the cohort that would go with this process or project? Again, just concerns, you know very well that there have been concerns around ensuring that we're not really just privatizing Transnet and removing its responsibilities and giving it to the private sector. How are we going to ensure that, as we see and we open up these reforms, we still safeguard the sovereignty of some of these state-owned entities in terms of their mandates? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The last one, NCA.
Moloko here from ENCA. You say, Minister, that this process will drive growth and ultimately create jobs. Have you been able to quantify how many jobs will be created, particularly during this first process? But also, who are these people? Could it be that they perhaps are some of these bulk commodity producers themselves? And if that is the case, is that perhaps in line with our competition laws?
Okay. Minister.
So I think it's important to start off and just draw the distinction between a concession and a third-party operator. Because what we're not doing today is giving certain lines over to certain operators on an exclusionary basis. And I think you would have heard that the possibility, remember at the moment, we are moving in the region of 160 million tons of freight. We want to reach 250 million tons of freight. So Transnet Freight Rail is moving the existing quantities of freight. But Transnet Freight Rail has limitations in terms of being able to reach our target of 250 million tons. And those limitations relate to operating processes, shortage of rolling stock, and of course the conditions of the lines themselves. Where we would be looking at concessions, and those concessions would relate to those who would be interested in investing in infrastructure. That is, you will remember we had the request for information earlier this year, and we are going later on this year to begin the process of issuing requests for proposals. And those would be concessions, probably. There might be BOTs, but probably it would be the concession basis. Now, what we're trying to do is bring in the additional operators to assist us to carry the 90 million tons that we are short. So the 90 million tons is the appetite. It's people who are saying to us, we don't want to be moving these goods on road. We want to be moving them on rail. And we are saying, let's begin the process of bringing in additional operators who can help us to meet the appetite. And the research that we've done has indicated that those operators in the next year can add in the region of 20 million tons. So they are not cannibalizing Transnet Freight. They are adding capacity to what Transnet Freight is already carrying, because Transnet Freight is already carrying 160 million tons. But what we want to do is we want to enable the appetite for rail to be met with the introduction of these new operators. I think what is very important to share with you is that our rail reform agenda, on the one hand, we receive criticism that it's coming very late in the day. Most countries who have introduced rail reform measures did so 20, 30 years ago. Of course, that's not an excuse. Even if we are latecomers to this process, we have to play catch-up. And I think that you would see that there are many different interventions which we are trying to move with speed. But there's a benefit to being a late player in the rail reform space. And that benefit is you can learn from other people's mistakes. So one of the things that we've learned is that in a country where there is only one rail company, it's not a good idea to privatize that company and have only one freight operator, because that might not give the best price to consumers. So we are introducing different operators. Those operators are price takers. The economic regulator will be determining the price and will be determining that price for everybody, all operators, including Transnet Freight. What we've also learned from the international experience is it's not a good idea to sell individual lines. There are lots of people who have appetite to buy individual lines. But what we've learned from other countries, and I think a very good example of this is the rail reform process that took place in the United Kingdom, where individual lines were sold. And the consequence of that is you don't have operability. And you can't move trains between and amongst lines, because you would have different operators that would have different conditions and would not necessarily want their competitors operating on their lines. And you would see that there is now thought in the current government in the United Kingdom to re-publicize, to take public ownership of the rail network. And that thinking really relates to the fact that they want interoperability. So we want to maintain ownership, but I think that we've learned from the SANRAL example that you can get good investment in the network from the private sector, and in the end of the concessionaire period, that infrastructure reverts to the ownership of the state. We would have currently in Transnet a similar situation with regard to port terminals, where at a certain point those port terminals that have been concessioned out revert to the state, because the state remains the owner of the port network. So I think that that really deals with the policy issues. I would want to invite you, Michelle, to deal with how did you choose? Because that was your decision.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Minister. It was not my decision, Minister. Let me say that up front. I think we ran quite a robust process. We had several gates that people had to pass through. But I have to say, I think we have to distinguish this from a bidding process. There were no bids. There were applications made by interested parties. We took them through several gates, what you would call the administrative checks. So we would have a look at who are you, where do you come from, do you meet the requirements of the application process. We also looked at your technical, whether you were technically sound. We looked at whether you were financially sound. We also did not want people to apply for access to the network and then hog capacity to the detriment of others. So, the question of whether we expect court processes to proceed after this, I can say the following. We believe that those applicants who are interested in access, as I've said, this was a commercial process. We want to work with them, to support them, to enable them further to be able to get access. Of course, where it is impossible for them to get access because maybe they just do not meet the requirements, there's some work for them to do. We will open further again an ad hoc process, and we will work with those entities so that they are able to access this network. As the Minister says, the target is a 250 million tonne target. We are under no illusions as Transnet as to what we ourselves are able to do. We've taken the approach that we want to collaborate with the industry, and this is part of that collaboration with the industry is how do we jointly, as South Africa, meet the target of moving 250 million tonnes. What will happen, and I think it's important that I also indicate what will happen after this process, Minister, if you'll allow me. So we will, after the briefing, communicate with both the successful as well as the unsuccessful applicants. We will indicate to the unsuccessful applicants why their applications have not been successful. And as I've said, with the lessons learned through the process, we will engage with them quite robustly to enable them to get as close as possible to be able to get successful applications. With the applicants that have been successful, we will now proceed with the negotiation process. As we said, there are other gates that they would need to pass, and the intention is to get them to remain on this list of successful applicants. So we will work with them closely as well. That's the process. We will then also, I think from about the 1st of September, as I've said, start what we call this ad hoc application process, where you will be entitled to better your application. If you make a new application, we will also look at that. As I've said, the intention is not here to go on it's not a bidding, it's not who comes with the best price. It's about who is able to supplement and to assist us to get to the 250 million ton target. Thank you. I think that's...
There was the question of what is Transnet offering
what will Transnet be investing?
Condition of the land.
Yes. So I think also everybody, I mean, we've been very transparent about the condition of the network as it is. We have, unfortunately, challenges both on the infrastructure condition of the network and also the attacks that we receive, that we get in terms of theft and vandalism on the line. We are working quite hard to ensure that we get the necessary funding to be able to do the work that will ensure that we are able to restore and rehabilitate the network to standards that make it acceptable for not only Transnet but these private operators to be able to operate on the line. We have made application through the budget facility for infrastructure for some funding that will allow us to be able to do that. The GCOO has one of his big responsibilities, in fact, is to get this line or the network restored and rehabilitated to the extent that we are able to run trains in an uninterrupted way. Currently, that is quite a big challenge for us. So what we do not want is, new operators to be experiencing the kind of incidents that we've been experiencing as Transnet. We want to be able to run uninterrupted trains and move commodities in that way. And in order to do that, we have already embarked on restoration programs and rehabilitation programs to get the lines to the right standards. I think that's covered.
The new operating companies, are they rail operating companies?
Oh, who are they? Yes. So the new train operating companies, well, certainly they've indicated to us that they are train operating companies. We have done some checks, but as I've said, there's still continued due diligence that will need to happen. No, in this iteration, no, they are not cargo owners. The network statement as published in December did not allow for cargo owners to become, access, what we call access seekers. But however, we believe that in the next iteration, volume 4, allowance is made for possible cargo owners or for cargo owners to be able to access. Of course, you would need a train operating company to access the line.
At this point, we don't have statistics on the direct jobs that these operating companies are going to create. But I think it's important to share with you why it is so crucial that we meet the appetite to move goods on rail. What I think everybody would understand is that to be moving particularly mining commodities on road is extremely expensive, and in many situations it's not really an option because of the distances. To be moving iron ore, for example, from Sishen to Saldanha is not really an option on road. And the consequence of our current inability to meet freight demand has a direct impact on jobs in the mining sector and also jobs in the agricultural sector. Because if producers are not able to move as much of commodities as they would want to move, they obviously then have to go on to short time. And one of the stories that I've been told at the Kolomela mine in the Northern Cape is that they have desperately tried not to put miners onto short time, despite the fact that we have had limitations in our ability to move that iron ore to Saldanha. And as a result of that, apparently there isn't a playing field, a sports field in that area that isn't being used to store iron ore that in due course will be put on trains to move out. So I think what's very important to understand is the wider impact that our inability to meet demand is having on the agricultural and on the mining sectors, and the crucial importance to move with speed to ensure that we can enhance freight capacity on rail so that we can maintain existing jobs and so that we can give security to the mining and the agricultural sectors in what is already quite a difficult global context. Thank you.
Thanks, Minister and CEO. Can we just check online, Batabile? Don't know if you have any questions online. Can you just use your mic?
We have 5 questions from Terence Creamer.
Okay.
Engineering News. First question, could you please receive the names of the selected TOCs, their underlying shareholders, the routes they will be operating on, and the duration of the slot allocation? Second question, by when do the TOCs need to begin operating to keep the slot?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
By when do these TOCs need to begin operating to keep the slot? Third question, where will the rolling stock come from for the initial TOCs named? Fourth question, what other conditions must the TOCs meet to retain the slot and to renew it at the end of the term? Last question from Terence, who carries the financial risk should the network not be in a good condition for the TOC to operate as planned?
Okay. It's a mouthful. I think we should take it. Okay. CEO?
Yeah, it's a mouthful. I'm going to try and respond to that which I've heard, and then you'll remind me if I've missed out anything. The names of the selected, the applicants who will now be receiving conditional awards, as I've indicated earlier, immediately after this media briefing, we will be communicating with both successful and unsuccessful applicants. We will proceed then with the commercial processes, the negotiations, the contracts, the access agreements. We will confirm the timelines in terms of readiness, etc. We will do further due diligences. We will then, at some point in the next few weeks, hopefully we're able to conclude this, and then we will be in a position to publish, I believe, the final list of those applicants who remain successful and who will then have access to the network. In terms of by when and do they need to be operating on the line, we've really allowed the applicants to make indication to us in terms of their readiness. For example, you will have an applicant who has indicated to us that they will be ready towards the second half of the 26-27 financial year. You have other applicants who have indicated to us that they will be ready towards 27-28 and 28-29. So, as I've said, we are continuing to run the process. We will proceed with the ad hoc process to further allow those applicants who are not successful in this first round to, further enable them to be able to get access to the line. We are trying to cover a big gap, Minister, of 250 million tonnes. And I think
90 million.
well, 90 million tonnes, but I mean a target of 250 million. So a gap of about between 90 and 100 million tonnes is where we need to get to. So, of course, we would want to work with potential operators to get networks. Yes, there will be performance standards. I think it's important. If this is going to be a competitive space, if for whatever reason you are not successful once you have access, of course we will work with you. There will be opportunities for you to remedy whatever breaches may exist. But at the end of the day, we need the system running. And if you are unable to meet requirements that you are expected to require, of course, we would need to ensure that that slot then maybe goes to someone else. But these are the processes that will unfold as we move forward. I really want us to focus on, the positivity of this and the fact that we will try and enable most operators, if not all, to in fact be able to get onto the network. The matter of financial risk, the network statement, I think when we published it in December, was quite clear that we indicated to the industry what the state of the network is. As we speak, as I've said, we are investing to get the network to the right standard. But, when you get onto this network, you need to familiarize yourself with the network. You need to understand what it is that you're getting into. We will do as best we can in terms of security and whatever we can control. But, yes, I think the network statement said you enter at your risk, and we will work with that. Thanks. Oh, Leaseco, how do they get access to rolling stock? You recall that we recently ran a public sector, a private sector participation process for looking for a partner to come with us in terms of partnering for the refurbishment of rolling stock that we currently have in Transnet. This is rolling stock that are either, underutilized or not utilized at all, because, it's in a bad state of disrepair. We are looking for a partner. That process closed on the 4th of August. Now, in the meantime, what we have done, we have been entering and we have, in fact, received applications from some of the applicants, these new train operating companies, for rolling stock. I believe we've got 14 applications for rolling stock. We are working with them, negotiating with them to see what it is possible and what it is that we can make available to them. Yes, they will need to refurbish some of the stock, so we've made that available to them through leasing, what we call tactical leasing arrangements. The plan is, once we've set up this leasing company, to then again lease out rolling stock to both private operators as well as TFR should the need arise. Now, some of these train operating companies have approached us, and yes, there are instances where we have made available rolling stock and continue to negotiate agreements with them. So we have a fleet in the country that, yes, requires some work and refurbishment. And then my understanding is that train operating companies will also do the necessary work to fund themselves and to access other markets for rolling stock. Thanks.
Thank you, CEO. Can we get back to the room? There was one hand this side. Are you covered now? Okay, I see 3 hands. We'll start with you, then there's a second hand, and then a third one, in that order. Is there another one there? Sorry? Is it a follow-up? Okay, we'll come back to it. Okay.
Minister, can you give us any updates on what's happening with the TER
Thank you. Can you speak a bit louder, Ngabile? What happened to your voice?
I don't know. The mic is muting me. I just wanna find out. It was on red. It's still not picking up. But we want to find out because the minister's spoken about job creation. This is on the freight industry, but there's been concerns from the side of trucks that they're going to lose jobs. How are you mitigating that?
Okay. SABC?
I mean, there's an admission on your side that the state of the rail network is in disrepair. You are bringing these new players. In terms of the time frames, when are you going to get this rail network that is in a state of disrepair to a condition that will be able to take additional trains? But also, these people, because they will be competing with Transnet freight rail, is this not ultimately going to kick Transnet out of business? But lastly, is this an admission on the part of government that it has failed perhaps to sustain a state-owned entity which was created primarily for this? Is this an admission that you simply did not take care of this asset?
Okay. I think, can we just sneak in the online one? Because you're saying it's the only one. It's just one question. Yeah, if you can just give it to us.
There's a clarity-seeking question from voters. Of the 25 TOCs who applied, 11 have met the necessary requirement and will proceed to the next stage of negotiations and contracting. Are these already selected companies, or is the minister going to launch a request for proposals?
Okay. Thank you so much. Is that a follow-up, SABC?
No, ENCA.
Oh, sorry, ENC.
Just to take advantage of the minister's presence, and I won't be doing Q&As after this. Can she just clarify this issue of the license printing machine?
No, not today. I'll talk to you offline.
Okay.
Let's take it offline.
Okay, sure.
Sorry about that, ENC.
We'll do Q&A first.
Okay. All right. Okay. Minister?
So the first question relates to were there engagements with financial institutions? Yes, there were. I think, Michelle, you can just give a little bit more detail on what was involved. With regard to the Economic Regulator Board, it is back in the cabinet system, and we hope to be able to make an announcement on the final board in September. On the job creation and the trucks, I think what is very important for us to understand is that any modern logistics system is an interoperable system. What does that mean? It means that it may have a shipping or an aviation component. It will have a rail component, but it will also have what we call a last mile component, and that would be a trucking component. So I don't think that there's any intention as we reform and develop the country's logistics system to remove trucking. What we want is for trucking to have its rightful place in the logistics system. And generally, you would find that trucking has a role to play in global logistics systems, in last mile, in first mile, and obviously in areas where it is appropriate to be moving goods on road rather than on rail. So if you are dealing with containers generally speaking, you would be unloading the container near to the port, and then the destinations of the cargo inside the container would be very varied. And so that is where you would bring in the trucking sector. So just as the fact that we want to reinstate passenger rail as the backbone of the passenger transport system does not mean there's no role for taxis and buses. So when we say that we want to reinstitute freight rail as the backbone of the freight system, it definitely doesn't mean there's no place for trucking. I think that what we've got to make sure is that trucking is playing its appropriate, rightful, and cost-effective role in the overall logistics system. Yes, of course, these operators are going to compete with Transnet Freight. Because I think that what we are trying to do here is that we're trying to provide what a freight service is, which is an economic service for the economy. And clearly what the economy wants is the most efficient, effective system at the right price. It's going to be something new for Transnet Freight. But remember, Transnet Freight has got a considerable first participant advantage because Transnet Freight really understands the freight rail business. Many of these operators are, well, they're newcomers. So I think Transnet Freight has got a starting advantage. But Transnet Freight obviously is going to have to continue to improve and to provide a better and better service so that it remains the service provider of choice for those who want to move goods. Look, I think with regard to the question of has government failed or not failed, the history of what happened in state-owned entities during the state capture period and the debt that left these entities, I mean, that's not news to any of you. You all know that. And one of the reasons that Transnet is currently facing difficulties is because they are saddled with that historical debt. But I think it's very important that we understand that the reforms that we're introducing into the rail system are not because of the history of state capture. They are because these rail reforms have been introduced into every major rail system in the world. And I've had the privilege over the last 14 months of doing quite a lot of reading on rail reform across the globe. And it came as an interesting surprise to me to learn that China, Russia, Mexico, of course the European Union, the United Kingdom, the US, Canada, all of those rail companies brought about a separation between the network operation and the freight operation. So this is not something that is unique to our country. These reforms that we're introducing, they have been done everywhere. So Transnet's primary activity going forward is going to be as a network owner. Obviously, they will still be running a freight business. They will still be running, TNPA will still be running a port business. But their primary function is going to be as a network owner and the receiver of revenue from the fact that they are a network owner. And I think that international best practice, as I say, everywhere in the world, has introduced these reforms into the rail sector. So this is not about failure. This is about bringing our system in line with the way that railways are run across the globe. In our instance, we do not believe it's appropriate to privatize infrastructure ownership. And I've already explained to some extent why we don't believe that. And it's to do with the fact that we want there to be interoperability in a strategic economic asset of the country. The question on the selected companies? Yeah. I think the announcement we're making today is of the companies that have been successful in the application process for slots. And we've also explained that they have met all the criteria of the application, and now they've got to get involved in contracting with Transnet. They've also got to get involved in registering themselves as operators with the rail safety regulator. And they're also going to have, if they don't, they are not already rolling stock owners or lessors, they're going to have to acquire rolling stock. There's no RFP process from here. The requests for proposals relate to the issue of those who would be interested in investing in the Transnet network. Now, before I conclude, let me just talk about what are we doing to improve the quality of the Transnet network in the short term and in the medium term. So in the medium term, we are putting out the requests for proposals for those who would be interested in doing major revitalization and investment in our lines. And I've indicated that we imagine at this stage, although we haven't put out the RFPs yet, that those are likely to be in the form of concessions. But what we understand about that process is it's going to take, once the RFP process is concluded and there's a preferred bidder, it's going to take at least 2 years to reach financial close. So we imagine that these investments could start, best case scenario, about 3 years from now. The question is, what do we do in the meantime? Because as you correctly indicate, these 5 priority lines where these new operators are going to be operating are not in the best condition. And what we are doing there is that we have put into requests to the budget facility for infrastructure of National Treasury. The first request went in July, and the second request is going in October. I think we hope to hear about July in the budget adjustment. Am I right? Yes, we hope to hear in November about the July request. So we're not sitting waiting for the medium-term major revamp. We are looking at how do we raise capital now so that we can engage in urgent repairs that will make those lines in better condition. Of course, Transnet itself, through the income it receives, does have a budget for infrastructure, and you would know that every year we've been doing shuts on the coal line and the iron ore line so that we improve the conditions of those lines. We've been working with cargo owners and on those particular lines, and obviously we are always eager to find new ways to enhance the possibility of allowing cargo owners to support us in improving the infrastructure. And those kind of mechanisms are continually under scrutiny and development. Thank you very much. Do you want to just talk about the financial institutions?
The question on have we engaged with funders or banks? In short, yes, we have. It was necessary for us to do that. And it's been very interesting conversations with the funders. We will continue to have those conversations because, the intention is to enhance the bankability of all of these projects. These train operating companies will be going to funders for funding. If we look at the kind of questions that were asked, 10-year of agreements, and we've indicated, up to 10 years, that's what we're working on. So that should somehow enhance bankability of these projects. The issues of risk came up in terms of the state of the network. And as the Minister have indicated, in fact, we started 18 months, if not longer ago, on the restoration of these lines. You see the improvement of the lines in the numbers that we are beginning to deliver. We went from 149 to 151 to 160 million tons, and we are already above prior year. So continued work on this network. We want the private operators to be successful as well, and that's what we will continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister and CEO. We're just taking the sweeping questions now, drawing to a close. I see Katleho still wants to come back. Oh, there's another one at the back. So we'll take those. Can I? Oh, okay. Can we take another set? So there's three. Oh, the Moloko is back again. So can we, in that order? We'll start with Katleho and then all the way.
Again here from the SABC. Also just asking about developments within Transnet in terms of what happened to Mr. K.P. Silinga. I know very well that there is an acting person there in that position. Is that person still acting right now, or there's an executive that has been appointed to take over from Mr. K.P. Silinga? And do these developments worry you, Minister, in terms of just bringing business to Transnet? And there are still some of these teething issues that exist within the institution.
Okay. Moloko.
The minister said that they have approached the National Treasury. Maybe if you can give us an idea of how much they are requesting. But also I think the African National Congress during their party reporter sometime in February or January made a suggestion that the National Treasury perhaps must just bail out Transnet, give them a once-off bailout or so that it can start on a clean slate. Maybe CEO, if you can give us an idea of if that were to happen, how much would you need?
All right. And then the third one, and that would be the last. Can I just check, would this be, not unless there's follow-ups, can we just keep it now and then we can deal with the rest on the one-on-one basis? Yes, you can go ahead. Just introduce yourself, please. Can you speak louder? Just speak to the mic.
No. Why don't you stand up and use your shop steward voice?
Good day. I'm Tato from TUTFM. The minister mentioned that the network will alleviate job creation, and also mentioned that first they have to do renovations on the railways. So my question is, will the job creation process begin after the renovations of the railways?
Okay. Can you take the last one there?
Good morning. I'm from the Trustee. There's 6 new entrants on the North Corridor, 6 new entrants on the North East Corridor, and I just wanted some specifics when it comes to coal. How will that translate into the expert numbers of coal specifically?
Okay.
We'll have to get that figure.
All right, we'll just address it. Colleagues, would that be the questions in the room? Anything online, Batabile? Because I do want to close. We're at 11. 10 past already. Okay, that's it, Minister. Over to you.
in terms of the two bid windows, applications that we're making to National Treasury, the first one, which we've already put in, was for 16.4 billion rand. And the second one, which is going to go in October or November, October, is for 18.6 billion. So what you can see is this is significant investment that we would be putting into the rail network should these requests be successful. And obviously, if you are going to be investing what would be in the region of about 34 billion rand total, that obviously, that construction itself is going to create jobs. I mean, it's a huge investment in the rail network. But obviously, all of these operating companies are going to have people who will work for them. So I think that we need to understand the job creation processes as running parallel, because as we are introducing operating companies, so we are trying to fix the network. With regard to the gap in coal, there's an appetite for 25 million more tons of coal to be carried on rail. What I think we can't give you today is it 10 million?
10 million over 3 years.
Yes. So so there's a gap of 25 million tons, and the expectation is the third-party operators will contribute to 10 million of those over the next 3 years. I don't think we're going to comment on ANC Lekgotlas and National Treasury. Thanks. Yes, just deal with the TNK.
Thank you. So two things. I want to clarify the request. So we've applied for this, the 16.4 billion, as Minister has indicated. Remember, we don't only run railways, we run ports as well. So 10 billion of that 16 billion, Minister, is for the North Corridor as well as for the Ore Corridor. And then the balance of that is for the Durban deepening and then the berth in Kucha. Now, on the matter of the TNPA and the departure of Mr. Selinga, we have commenced with the recruitment process for the new chief executive. We are in the process of setting up the required panel to be able to do that in collaboration with the TNPA board. And I think we will, probably in the next week or two, we will be advertising for those who are interested to take on that huge task of running the TNPA to apply. Thank you.
Are you able to tell us what happened? Sorry,
What happened?
With Mr. Selinga, are you able to tell us what happened? What led to his departure?
We agreed that we depart. Thank you.
It's a brilliant answer. Okay. Colleagues, we've come to the end of the presser. So what I do want to sort out now is just to check with the broadcasters in terms of the one-on-ones. I know that Katleho, Moloko, you want to talk to Minister? Or you okay? Ngobile? Okay, so, and Roy. Roy, you keep quiet these days, so it's fine. So we'll give you the one-on-one in that order. So those who want to speak to Transnet, there's Ayanda. Where is Ayanda? Ayanda Shezi. There she is. So if you can just organize that with Ayanda, and then we'll start with the minister. I think the panel, if they can just sit where they are. So we'll take the minister right here, and then the rest can follow after that. Okay? Thank you so much, colleagues. That brings us to the end of the press conference, and thank you so much, Minister, and your panel. Oh yes, there's tea and sandwiches. So please help yourself.
So they want us to do a live crossing. Let me just call them quickly.
They want to do a live crossing. Okay. All right. SABC is doing a live crossing. So, Ngobile, are you doing a live with Transnet, or is it? It's a record. Okay. Maybe start with the CEO while we wait for the SABC.